Erik Peterson on Williston Trending Topics News Radio Live.
Good morning to you. Erik Peterson with us today, as he is every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. We talk real estate with Erik of Proven Realty, EXP. Today, we talk a little bit about commercial real estate. It's a big deal around Williston, and it's humming, isn't it, Erik? Good morning.
Yeah, it's been a great start to the year. We're getting lots of calls. Obviously, the weather helps. Everybody wants to be inside before, Mother Nature's here. And so just to keep all of their products and goods and trucks and services and employees indoors has really been a phenomenal start to the year.
What about size? That's always a concern, how big a lot you can get. And what's the sweet spot?
Yeah, right now there's a lot of demand in that 5,000 to 12,000 square foot range. That's going to be your shop with maybe 1,000 square feet of office, a couple of acres. It's really, really hard to find right now. So if you are a seller and you own that property and it's either vacant right now or you just want to look for a better deal, either to sell it or lease it, we need all the help we can get. We will definitely take any of those listings on to try to fill them for you, because it's a game of musical chairs and we have so many companies right now looking for inventory, and unfortunately it just doesn't exist.
If I'm looking for inventory, am I better off looking to buy or rent right now, or lease?
Yeah, it's really a good question. Typically, your payment if you bought is going to be cheaper than leasing a property. Right now, we're seeing the lease rates in the range of $12 to $14 a square foot, plus triple net, which means that the tenant is going to be responsible for your taxes, maintaining the building, and also paying for the insurance. But if you go to buy that particular building, even with higher interest rates right now, we're seeing about 6.5% to 7.5%. The downside is you're going to need 30 to 35% down for the bank to then qualify for the loan. A lot different than buying a house with 3.5% down. You need about 10 times more down on a commercial building, but your payment's going to be a lot lower.
Reiterate to me about availability. What is available in town, and is there a ebb and flow with that?
Yeah, it just really depends on what's coming on the market, what's not, who's selling, just really how things go quickly. We've done a lot of leases so far this year, and a lot of those are starting to pay more in dollars, but also be longer term. We used to do 1 to 2 year leases through COVID. We're now up in that 4 to 5 year lease scenario right now. But in that 8 to 10,000 feet, there's just nothing out there that exists. We do have buildings in the 30, 40, 50, even 100,000 square foot size. But right now, those are really hard to lease out because they are so big. And the operating cost of the Halliburton building, for example, is $250,000 a year, just in taxes and just in heating costs, just to keep that thing running. So if you have something that's smaller, those are the types of properties that are in full demand right now.
These 1 or 2 year deals, does anybody profit from those? It seems like there's no real benefit to a 1 2 year deal, I guess, unless you're looking to buy and you want to lease for a year while you look to buy. I guess that would be one way.
Yeah,
but
that's
1 to 2 year deals don't seem very attractive to me.
Yeah, exactly. And it just depends on who the owner is. Are they let's say a investor? The longer the term is, then the easier it is to sell. But a lot of these owner users are happy, or some of these companies may not be running full steam anymore. Maybe had 2 or 3 shops and now they've consolidated into one. So to have somebody in there running the heat, paying the bills, keeping these things going is a lot cheaper than keeping it vacant. We've had over 40 properties freeze this year. Those are properties that have had backups of the sewer that froze some of the lines coming in. And it's really expensive in the middle of winter, as you know, to call up a company in the middle of the night and say, hey, we can't flush the toilets at our shop, or we can't use our wash bay, or we can't use our floor drains. Those are the types of things that'll stop your business in the tracks. So to be proactive and just make sure that the heat's on, make sure that the toilets are getting flushed, and more importantly, have somebody occupying these buildings is really the best way to protect your investment.
A friend of mine owns a restaurant here in town, and she went out of town for the holiday weekend. And so I was going over there every day, running the water, flushing the toilets, and turning the lights on, just to make sure that everything was functional. Is that the right thing to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting in there, flushing the toilets, making sure people are in there, checking the heat. That's the big thing. I mentioned before on the show that I had a building 2 years ago, the old Schlumberger shop, middle of the night. One of the heaters went off. One of our furnaces did. We had over $100,000 of damage. It doesn't take a lot of water to freeze a pipe on the second floor, flow 40,000 gallons through your shop. It took us about 7 months to clean it up, and the cost was over 100 grand. And then we also lost out on all that revenue that we had that we could have made if it was rented. So yes, flush the toilets, check the heat. And then really what happens with, if you have snow, that kind of insulates the frost line. The frost lines are down in that 7 to 8 feet below ground level right now. If you have snow, and of course our wind blows so much that the snow gets off of the ground, that snow kind of acts as a blanket to keep the ground insulated so that we don't get as much freeze down there as well.
So let's break things up for a moment and talk to the investor, if you would, for a moment, Erik, and look at investing in apartments and townhomes,
Yep.
houses, or commercial. Which is the best to do in 2023?
Yeah, I spent 15 years as a financial advisor, as we've discussed numerous times on here. Right now, rental rates are going up right now. People are not able to afford to buy houses, so there's a lot more demand, especially in Williston, for these apartments and townhomes. So investors are sitting there licking their chops with rental rates going up about 30% in the last couple of years, occupancy going through the roof. They're cash flowing really well. The downside to that is the maintenance side of it. When somebody moves out, did they have a dog that tore up the carpets? Did they pee in the corner? Do you have to do a full remodel when somebody moves out? Did somebody kick a hole in the door? There's a lot more headaches as an investor of those multifamily units. So obviously you can make a lot of money on those, but there's also a lot of headaches as well. Some investors prefer, triple net, fully leased buildings to industrial companies, mailbox money. If something breaks, then the oil field companies or the tenants in those commercial buildings fix it. So it's more of a hands-off scenario, which is great for investors.
And the oil business, is it good enough in 2023, you think, to go ahead and invest in commercial?
Yeah, I mean, you follow it like I do. The projections are these budgets are going up from these companies. Oil is going to remain strong. We have a lot of geopolitical concerns still going on with the Ukraine and what's going on with OPEC. And if you take a look at it, how many countries right now are in situations of unrest? There's a lot of political uncertainty around the globe. That's going to bode well for oil prices. It's going to bode well for North Dakota. And I just want to say a shout out to all the workers that are out there working their butts off, braving the cold, braving the roads, getting out there to the fields to keep America turning again and giving us our oil and energy independence. The media forgets to talk about the millions of lives that we all saved with heating and natural gas and oil that are being used to keep people alive in these frigid temperatures that we've had for the last month and a half.
You bet. Now, as we look at the marketplace and the commercial marketplace, do I want to jump in now or do I want to wait till we get past the first of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I would say moving into the second month or two of the year is really important now. I think it's always a good time if you can afford to get in now. It's really hard to find buildings that are currently leased, but if there's a vacant building out there, jump on it. We can help you then lease it up, fill it up. We're seeing longer term tenants at a higher dollar amount, and our cap rates are some of the most attractive in the country. If you take a look at bigger cities now, because there's so much demand for real estate, less demand for crypto, less demand for global investments, less demand for our failing stock market, if you will. People really want an asset that they can hold and touch like real estate. But you take a look at our cap rates, those are our rates of return for investors compared to anywhere else in the country. You'll go to the big cities and see 3 or 4%. In North Dakota, you can still get 8 or 9% as an investor, which is phenomenal.
Now, talk about for a moment the value of a renter. How valuable is a good renter, and what should you do as a landlord to keep a hold of a good renter?
Yeah, I happen to own a couple of buildings here, and we have some of the largest oil companies in ours. If you have a good credit, you don't have to worry about them paying their bills. It's literally mailbox money that they will ACH or send you a check every month. That's the most important point. You as an investor your returns are going to be solely based on the credit of your tenant. If they can't pay you, then it doesn't matter how great your building is. You're going to have a problem on your hand where nobody's paying their rent. And we've found statistically that the companies that don't pay their rent are also the same ones that trash the place on the way out. Just like if you're renting to, people that can't afford to buy. So again, credit's important. The length of the lease is essential as well. And then are there any personal guarantees involved? If something happens to the company, are any of the officers individually liable and on the hook to keep paying you long after that company goes belly up?
So like anything else, you want to find somebody who has the ability to pay and the want and the need, right?
Yep, that's right. The ability to pay, the means to pay. And then also, just because somebody can pay doesn't mean that they will, right? What has their history been in payment? What are their financials looking like? Are they growing? Are their budgets increasing? How much money do they have at the end of the year on the bottom line? That's going to be the most important. And you as a landowner or building owner, landlord, have the ability to ask for financials from your tenants. You should do that in the negotiation on the lease. You need to have somebody that's going to bat for you, asking the right questions, that's professional and can get that data to help you make decisions. But the better the credit tenant you have, the easier it is and the higher chance you're going to be able to sell that lease to another investor for a lot more money.
Commercial real estate with Erik Peterson today of Proven Realty EXP. Erik, tell them how to find you.
Yeah, provenrealtymd.com. Give us a call anytime. We'd love to help you out, and certainly would love to help answer any of your questions on commercial real estate, residential real estate, and specifically investing. And I also think with my crystal ball, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, where do I think 2023 is going to go? I really believe there's going to be a lot of business sales this year. So if you're a business owner, you're sick of the ups and downs of the oil field, maybe you put all of your blood, sweat, and tears in it, you're getting wore out and you want to retire, we can help you find a buyer for your business, and probably for even more than you anticipated that it's worth. We would love to help you out with that as well. And we think that's going to be a huge thing going forward into 2023.
Have a great day. We'll see you next week.
Thanks again, Tom. I appreciate it. Stay warm.
Erik Peterson, Proven Realty EXP. We'll see you soon.